Good evening, everyone. Hello, hi. So this is Ashish, and we are from Navarre EduTech. And sorry for for keeping you waiting for so long because we have been struggling here, with some technical stuff. And but right now, we are back, and we are back with enthusiasm. We are back with the same energy. Okay. So once again, good evening, everyone. This is Ashish, and a senior manager at Navarre EduTech, and science communicator and astronomy educator over here. So I welcome all of you. I welcome all of you to this beautiful event of Total Lunar Eclipse. And I'm sure journey, okay? So buckle up yourself and let's start this beautiful program. Such kind of program, it excites us. It excites us as a human being, and not been such events since a very long time. Okay, when we were, at the time of our ancestors. So even they were also mesmerized by such kind of moment. Let us have this wonderful observation. So we'll talk a little bit about what is an eclipse, what is special about today's event, basically, right? And after that, we will also have the live observation of total lunar eclipse. Yes, you heard it right. So we going to observe, we are going to look at itself, and keep your popcorns, keep your chocolates ready, okay? Because it is going to be a little long journey, but I'm sure that you will enjoy this in this program. So whatever your questions are there, whatever your doubts are there, you can please put it in the chat box and our team will pick it up for you. Okay, so let us dive into this particular journey. Okay, submission. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so total lunar eclipse. Whoa, that's a long name, isn't it? So space is huge. We know that the universe is vast, right? We are living in this beautiful solar system family, and the solar system, of course, contains your sun, which is a guardian of our solar system, right? And then we have a couple of planets. We have asteroids, comets, small rocky bodies, isn't it? And sometimes we do get these visitors as well from the outer space. Not many, but yeah, we do have them, right? So, but as soon as you step out of the earth, which is the closest celestial neighbor you meet, that's right, of course, our moon, Luna, we call it as a basically Luna. And today our Luna or our moon is going to be eclipsed, right? So we'll see what happens during the eclipse time. But before diving into the live observation, let us have a quick overview of what an eclipse would be. But before that, I'm going to tell you a little bit story about it, okay? So almost 500 years back in 1504, when we humans were discovering the continents, when we humans were still navigating across the planet in search of discovering the places and all those things, right? So I'm sure that many of you might have heard that, oh, this person discovered America. So can anyone tell me who has discovered America? You can please, put your answers in the chat box. Let us see how many of your answers is correct. Okay. So yeah. So Christopher Columbus, right? Christopher Columbus was the person who discovered America, right? Who found out that such place exists, isn't it? Now, after after his voyage to America, he was in debt, right? And he had to recover his money. He had to recover his resources. More. Okay, he tried three more voyages to Okay. So now you might be thinking, what is the connection between Christopher Columbus and total lunar eclipse? Well, when he was in when he was in his voyage to America, okay, he had to stop to an island called Jamaica, okay, because he was attacked by pirates and other sea creatures. So he had to stop, his crew and his ship to an island called Jamaica. And yes, Jamaican people were very much welcoming, right? And they welcomed him with a lot of, with a lot of love and warm warmth. But after some time, Jamaican people realized that this Christopher Columbus is basically using them, right? Misusing them basically. So, but what Christopher Columbus did, he knew the astronomical data. He knew that after some time there is a total lunar eclipse going to happen. Okay, at that time the moon is gonna turn red. So that's what he has noticed. So he said to the Jamaican people that, hey, if you don't provide me the resources that I want, then I'm gonna turn your moon red. I'm gonna, speak to my God, and that God will turn your moon red and spread the disease and everything, right? And out of fear, Jamaican people were like, some few people believed him and few people did not. So just about the time when the eclipse was, about to begin, he came out of his tent and he informed everyone that, hey, see, you didn't listen me, right? Now your moon is gonna turn into a red color. And well, as usual, it was a total lunar eclipse. The moon turned into red, and all the Jamaican people started, kind of worshipping him that, oh, yes, so and so, you were right, and we'll provide you the resources, but just please talk to your God and, let the moon come out of this redness, or, let the moon be alive, right? So, and he went back to his tent, and right before the eclipse was about to end, which was about roughly 48 minutes, he came out of his tent and, well, slowly the moon came out of the redness, or basically came out of the eclipse, right? And yeah, so you can see how Columbus had a knowledge of science, right? He had a knowledge of astronomy, but he misused it, right? Because and he was misusing it because he knew that Jamaican people are not educated, isn't it? So we want to, we have to learn what exactly is the lunar eclipse, so that people don't, fool us like how Christopher Columbus fooled Jamaican people, right? So in our society, it's very important to have the scientific literacy, to put the logic behind, behind our concepts, behind our theories, isn't it? So let's move on. Okay, so what is wrong with this particular image? The moon is, rotating. Okay, the earth is rotating. Well, what could be the wrong? So can you think what is wrong in this particular image? You can put your answers in the chat box. Okay, the thing which is wrong over here is the distance, isn't it? We say that, oh, the moon is some, some few lakhs of kilometers away, but in the books, in the images, we see them placing side by side, right? Just like this. But is it true? Of course not, right? Moon cannot be this close to the earth. So moon is actually very far. Okay, the moon is roughly 4 lakh kilometers from earth. And well, that's a huge distance, right? Now this distance is so big, okay, that if you shine a light, okay, if you shine a light on the moon, like let's just say if you have a, enough powerful laser, and if you shine from the earth to the moon, that laser or that light is going to take almost 1.5 seconds to reach the moon, roughly close to 1.3, 1.4 seconds. But yeah, again, that the light itself, which is the fastest thing in the universe, that itself is taking 1.3 seconds to reach the moon. So you can imagine how big or how, vast the distance is between the earth and the moon, right? So, and you can also do this activity that try to put all the planets in between them. Okay, try to place all the planets, line by line, and you will see that you can fit the entire solar system within this distance. Crazy, right? So, and it is just the closest neighbor. That's it. Okay. Now, oh, we had a very cloudy day actually today, but luckily, the clouds they went away, and we are having this pretty beautiful moon in the right now in the sky. There is a little bit of haze, there are a little bit of clouds. Maybe some of you are from, from Maharashtra, and some of you might be from Bangalore or Vizag or some, Andhra region. There are a little bit clouds here and there because yes, we are sitting in the monsoon season, right? But no worries, we are going to give you the live view of the eclipse, right? So bear with us. Now, which is far? We see the sun and the moon in the sky. You may ask, which one is far? People will say that, oh yes, the sun is far, right? But how do we know that the sun is far? Like, it is in the books, yes, but if you, let us say, forget the books, suppose that if you don't have the books, how will you conclude that the sun is far? And that information can be given by the solar eclipse, right? Now, some of you may know, some of you might not know what is a solar eclipse. Now, solar eclipse is an eclipse where the moon basically comes between the sun and the earth and blocks this vibrant sun in the background. So right now you can see there is a black void kind of thing in the between, right? In the middle, that is nothing but your moon. And so if you want to know which is far, so during total solar eclipse, what happens? The moon comes in between, right? And it blocks the sun. So obviously the thing which is coming in between must be close to us. So this can actually, tell you or, give you the confirmation that the moon lives or moon stays close to us and the sun is pretty far away, right? Okay. So now eclipse, how can they happen, right? So basically, even though the sun is very far, okay, but still, I mean, it's of course a huge body, right? So sun is almost 400 times larger than moon, but it is also 400 times further away. Now imagine if you take, yeah. So yeah. So moon, I mean, the sun is pretty far away, right? Yes, it is almost 400 times far away, 400 times bigger. So imagine if your football is just one, is a sun basically, then a dot on the football will be your moon. So imagine how a dot can block the sun, isn't it? It's crazy, right? But yes, this is this is a celestial magic, you can say, or the science that the moon can eclipse the sun. But yeah, today we are going to have the lunar eclipse, where the moon is entering into the shadow of the earth, right? So let's talk about total lunar eclipse. So what happens as the sun is there, it is shining the light upon the earth, okay? And you know that when the source of put the light on the object, it creates a shadow. When you walk on the daytime, or wherever you're standing, you will see that there's a shadow forming, right? So when the moon enters in the shadow, then, isn't it? So it is basically entering into the shadow of the earth, and that is called as a lunar eclipse. Your moon is getting eclipsed or hidden in the glory of the earth shadow, right? Now there are two types of shadow. You can also observe whether you are in room or wherever you are. Just look at your shadow and you see that there are two shades of the shadow. The central shade, which is a darker, and we call it as a umbra, and then there is a shadow at the very edge. Okay, that is called as a penumbra, which is a lighter range of shadow, basically, it's a lighter shadow. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Why don't we have an eclipse every month? Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can please put it in the chat box. And now, actually, the eclipse has begun. So let me show you live how it is going to look like. Okay, just give me a minute and I'll get back. So here we have the eclipsed moon. Can you see that? That the one edge of the moon is getting darker. Just look at it here. Whoa. So now slowly your moon is slipping into the shadow of the earth from the backside, of course, right? Whoa. So finally the eclipse has begun, and eventually you will see that the top the top left part will start getting darker and darker. So if you have any questions regarding the lunar eclipse, please put it in the chat box, and our team will answer you, or I will answer you. Okay, so you might be wondering that the lunar eclipse, the moon should be red, right? Because you might have been hearing in the internet or some other resources. Well, the moon is going to turn red once the moon is completely within the dark shadow of the earth. Right now, moon is not in the complete, is not completely in the inside the earth umbral shadow. That is the reason it's looking darker. It's looking like a white, okay, in general. But as soon as the moon gets completely inside the darker shadow of the earth, then your moon is gonna turn red. Okay, wow, that sounds, and that's that sounds really nice, right? So let's wait how this white moon turns into red. But why is it turning red? What is the reason behind this red color, you may think? So basically, see, you know that the moon is gonna hide behind the earth, isn't it? It's like playing a hide and seek game. So in general, there should not be any light reaching the moon, right? Because the earth itself is blocking the light which is coming from the sun, right? So it should not reach the moon. But you know that the earth has an atmosphere, right? There is a small a thin layer of atmosphere around the earth, right? So what happens? The light is basically slips through that atmosphere, and there is a phenomenon that the light, the light which has a higher wavelength, right, which is basically your red, and the light which has a lower wavelength, which is basically your blue, okay, that blue is scatters in the atmosphere. Imagine that the light coming from the sun is a is made up of 7 colors, okay, and we call it as a whip gear, right? And out of those 7 colors, the blue scatters the most, okay. It just like it scatters into the atmosphere, and that's what makes the sky blue. Now what is left out? The left out color is the red, and that actually reaches till the moon, and that's what makes the moon red in color. Okay, so let me bring back the moon in the frame. Whoa, now you can see, right? The top edge is getting more darker now, isn't it? Whoa, that looks really nice. Okay, any other questions? Please put it in the chat box. So, guys, the eclipse has begun, isn't it? You can see that the moon is getting darker from the one edge, isn't it? So, if you have access to your terrace or balcony, wherever, right, you can go out and just have a look if the skies are clear. Okay, if not, then of course we are over here to give you the live glimpse of the eclipse moon, right? So, basically Mars situation. Okay, so there is a one question that what would happen if we have two moons instead of one? What will be the situation of eclipse? Will both moon eclipse, get eclipse at the same time? See, first of all, to have a solar eclipse, it is very important to for the moon to be in a certain position in its orbit so that it can block the moon, it can block the sun completely, isn't it? But yes, partial eclipses will of course happen, and the frequency will be more. There will be more number of eclipses per year, right? So it is just a case of the moon, just a case of a Mars. When you go to the Mars has two moons, right? Phobos and Deimos. If you go to the Mars, the two moons are basically gonna be eclipsing the sun. So yes, the chances of eclipse happening will be more, but the total solar eclipse may or may not happen, depends on the orbit of the moon. And I think there's a one question: who has discovered total lunar eclipse? Well, no one has discovered it. Uh, we have been observing this eclipses for a very long time, for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, so it is just like our ancestors have looked up at the sky and they figured out that, oh, moon is going little darker today. What is happening with the moon? Right? But of course, they did not know the science behind it. But here we are going to basically learn the science behind it. Okay, so I'm not sure, like, if you guys are wondering, but maybe some of you might be thinking, why is the moon shifting through the frame? Every second it is shifting, right, from one side to the another side of the frame? Well, it's happening because the Earth is rotating. Okay, so the shift in the moon's position that you see on your screen is not the moon motion. Okay, it is not the moon which is actually moving so fast. Okay, it is the Earth that is, that is rotating, and because of the Earth rotation, you're seeing the moon's movement in your screen. Now, as we are living on the Earth, right? Can we observe the Earth rotation? Can we feel the Earth rotation? Of course not, right? So what do we see? We see the the opposite motion of the background object. Just like when you go in a in a car or in a bike or in a train, and when you look outside the window, you see that the trees and everything are moving in a backward direction, right? But do they actually move? Of course not, right? Similarly, you're on Earth, but since you cannot see the Earth rotation, what you see is you see the opposite motion of Earth rotation with with respect to the background object. So your moon, your sun, your stars, galaxies, whatever it is, your sky itself shift from east to west. Wow, see, now you can see the moon is getting much more darker from the top left end, right? Okay, there is a one more question, that whether the redness will happen during in the umbral shadow or the penumbral shadow. The redness actually happens once the moon is completely inside the umbral shadow. Okay, once the moon is in the umbral shadow, then the redness will happen. Because right now the shadow is, of course, the shadow is red even now as well. But right now you cannot see the redness of the shadow, because the other part of the moon, which is not eclipsed, the bright part of the moon is so bright that it is overexposing the redness of the darker part. So that is the reason we need to wait till the moon completely slips inside the umbral shadow, and then you will have the eclipsed moon. Wow. So the speciality of today's eclipse is that it is happening it is visible from India after 7 years. The last total lunar eclipse that we Indians have observed was back in 2018. So that's a long time, isn't it? And generally, generally the gap will not be this much. Okay, the gap will be little less. So yep, that is the reason. I mean that, yeah. So that is the reason that this eclipse is pretty special this time. Okay, so make sure that you watch our live stream. Please share this live stream with your friends, with your relatives. Okay, and let them also have this beautiful event observation, because again it is gonna come after 3 years. Okay, for 3 years there will not be any total lunar eclipse for India. So enjoy it, and yeah. So now you can see the top left part is even more getting darker, isn't it? So we can see that, oh yes, there is a shadow of the Earth that actually exists in the space.
Naked eyes, but not solar eclipse.
Okay, so there is a one question that why can't we see solar eclipse with the naked eyes, but lunar eclipse with your naked eyes, of course, right? Okay. So basically, see, can you look at the simple answer is that there is a, let us say, sun in the sky. Can you look at the sun directly? No, right? It's way more brighter, isn't it? It's too bright. But moon, even though it takes light from the sun, but can you see it with the naked eyes? Of course, yes, you can see it with the naked eyes. So then the answer is simple. The sun is so bright that it can actually damage our eyes, and that is the reason that we cannot see the sun or the eclipsed sun, with our naked eyes, right? So yeah, moon is pretty. Moon is not that bright, so yeah, it's pretty safe to look at the moon all the time. So with to have a solar observation, I mean to have a solar eclipse observation, you need some special glasses, right? Solar eclipse glasses, right? Using which you can, of course, look at the solar eclipse very safely. And by the way, you can look at the solar eclipse, but only and only during the totality time when the moon completely blocks the sun's disk. Only that time you can actually see the solar eclipse. Otherwise, you cannot see the solar eclipse. Whoa, now you can see almost roughly 30% of the moon is in a darker shade, right? Whoa, okay. So the moon has, yes, of course, is on the way, slipping into the umbral shadow completely. It's a surprising, right? There was a full moon, isn't it? Just a couple of hours back, you were able to see the complete disk of the moon, right? And now it's just half moon. Wow. And that is the beauty of space. That is the beauty of the universe. It gives you these magnificent views of the eclipses and other such events. There was a one more question that what if the Earth has a ring and one moon? How the view would be? That's a good question. Basically, imagine if the earth had a ring, okay, and we are living on the earth, then you would see a stream of rings passing through the sky from one direction to other direction, and then there's a moon just right beside the ring. Yeah, of course the view will be very 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 fascinating, but unfortunately to have that kind of view you need to go to the Saturn, right? And yeah, but still eclipses are one of the rare event that actually can happen on Earth, especially total solar eclipses. So total solar eclipses are not very common in the solar system. So we are sitting at the right place to observe this beautiful eclipses. Whoa, now you can see, I think almost 50% of the moon is eclipsed. Wow, looks so cool. So if you ever wanted, to convince yourself that you're living on a ball of rock, so eclipse are the one of the, event where you can actually feel that, you're living in the 3D solar system and not a 2D, of course. Okay, so maybe some of you might be, maybe seeing the little bit bluish tinge on the moon. But by the way, that is not the color that we are observing, and it's pretty grayish and white. So, but what happens sometimes, we have this saturation thing in our phone, right? So, our phone alters the color a little bit. Maybe that is the reason. Okay, so many of you guys are posing the question that why is it blue. Basically, it's not a blue. I have just increased the brightness a little bit so that it's visible to you. But just wait for some time, the moon is going to turn red. Okay, but because right now you can see that some part of the moon is still not in the umbral shadow, right? So once the moon is completely inside the umbral shadow, that is the time when the moon is actually going to look red in color. Any questions, please do post in the chat box, and don't forget to share and uh, just with your friends. And so, guys, we have created a beautiful worksheet. Okay, there are some certain questions, there are some diagrams, there are areas to fill up. In the worksheet. So please, do it download from the description in our in our live uh, video, and you can then maybe post the results to to our website and to our social media, tag us your work, so we will of course mention you. And there is a one more question that is there. We need to understand how red the moon is gonna be. When we say that red, it can be a bright red, it can be an amber color, it can be a dark red or a light color red, right? So there are multiple hues and phases of the red itself, right? Now that depends on how polluted the atmosphere is, right? And how many pollutants or how many particles are there in the atmosphere. So more the particles, more the pollutants, more the redness of the moon would be. So we don't know how red it is going to be. We have to wait till the moon slips completely in the umbral shadow, and then we can have the observation. So we have given this question in the worksheet as well, to identify the color of the moon, right? To color of the red, basically the redness, the range of the redness, we call it as the Danjon scale. Okay, and once you have your observation, you can please share your work, share your observations with us, and we will project that on our platform. Okay, so there is a one thing that I would like to highlight, and I think we should talk about it, because it's very important in today's era, where you will find misinformation more, right, than an actual information over the internet, right? So maybe many people would say, or many people you would have heard that don't do this, don't do that, there will be some bacterias, like hibernating somewhere, during the total lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, especially. But just for your information, that I think we should not, combine the religion and our faith with science. But in general, what the truth is that there is nothing as such, which happens during the eclipses. Okay, so there is a no bacteria, there is no as such as sort of thing that happens during the eclipses. You can happily eat, you can happily enjoy, you can actually do whatever you want. There is no as such, restrictions or prohibitions that you don't need to do this or do need to do that. You can do anything, any sort of thing you want during the eclipses. Okay, so it's perfectly safe. There is no need to worry about it. So let me bring back the moon in the and yeah. So wow, right now you can see more than 50% of the moon is covered, right? So yeah, another half an hour, okay, and the total lunar eclipse will begin at 11 o'clock, right? So just half an hour more, just couple of minutes, maybe 20-25 minutes, and we will have the moon completely inside the Earth's shadow, Earth's umbral shadow. By the way. So some of you might have observed this shape of the moon before, right? Have you observed this shape of the moon before? Like a banana shape, right? Like a C or a D, right? So, well, we call those phases as crescent phases, right? Waxing crescent or waning crescent phase, right? But how is it possible to have a waxing or crescent, crescent phase during the full moon time, isn't it? It's only possible during the eclipse, during the total lunar eclipse. Okay. So right now, our moon is not in a crescent phase. It is actually getting eclipsed. It is hiding behind the Earth's shadow, and that is why we sometimes say that it is a game of shadows, or kind of a hide and seek of the between the moon and the Earth. So you can see right now it's kind of 70% eclipsed, 70% portion of the moon has been entered into the umbral shadow, and rest 30% is remained, which is gonna entered in the next probably 20 minutes. I'm sure all of you would have had dinner by now. Okay, so we all are waiting for the moon to slips completely inside the shadow, and let us see. Okay, so we have a question here that what is the difference between a total and a penumbral and a partial lunar eclipse? Well, by the way, as we discussed, a shadow will have two parts, right? An umbral part and the penumbral part, basically the darker part and the lighter part. So when the moon when the moon is just crossing the penumbral portion and not the umbral portion, that time the moon is just in the penumbral region, in the penumbral region of the shadow, right? That means it is called as a penumbral lunar eclipse. Okay, and when moon is half in the umbral shadow and half in the penumbral shadow, we call it as a partial lunar eclipse. Okay, and when moon is completely in the umbral shadow, we call it as a total lunar eclipse, because once the moon is completely inside in the umbral region, then we call it as a 100% eclipse. That means the moon is totally eclipsed, which is a total lunar eclipse. So I hope you have answered. I have answered the question, and wow, now you can see that almost 80% of the moon has been eclipsed, right? So just wait for some time, and the moon is gonna completely enter in the shadow. Wow, now you can see that almost 90% of the moon is eclipsed, right? Oh, right now the moon is looking stunning. So there is a one question that why there are why many people can see the lunar eclipse, but there are very few people who can actually see a solar eclipse from a certain given location, right? So basically, it's just a game of a shadow, right? So what just the earth is bigger, right? Of course, right? So earth will have a larger shadow, isn't it? So the earth shadow will be larger than the moon shadow, right? So let us first talk about the lunar eclipse. So during lunar eclipse, what happens? The moon comes at the back of the earth, or the earth comes in between the sun and the moon, right? And the moon gets hidden behind the shadow. So we know that there is a huge shadow, right, of the earth. So with this, what happens that the moon takes a longer time to cross it, and by the time it crosses the by the time it crosses the shadow, the earth rotates, right? And with that given time period, there will be many people who can actually see the lunar eclipse from various locations. But in case of solar eclipse, now we know the solar eclipse happens when the moon comes in between the sun and the earth, right? And since the moon is very small, right, so the shadow of the moon also will be very pretty small, right? So that is the reason that it's very difficult for anyone, I mean not for everyone, to observe the total solar eclipse at the same time. Okay. And since the shadow is very small, so not so there will be a very thin boundary, there will be a very thin boundary from where the totality or the total solar eclipse can be visible. So even if you are just a little bit here and there, then you may miss the total solar eclipse. So yeah, it's very important to to precisely pinpoint our location when we want to observe solar eclipse, especially total solar eclipses. Whoa, now can you see the topmost part is getting red now? So there is a very small part of the moon which is just about to get eclipsed, and you will have the red moon right in front of you. Okay, so one question was posed in the group that why can't lunar eclipse happen in a day? Well, so to first of all, to have a total lunar eclipse, the moon has to be in the full moon phase, isn't it? And the full moon happens only when the moon goes backside, isn't it? Or basically, the moon is in the background, right? And so that is the reason that by the time Earth rotates, the moon will slip, okay, outside of the shadow, and you will not have any eclipses. So basically, you want your moon to get eclipsed, right? So it has to be in the darker shadow. It has to be in the shadow, basically. And you know that the shadow only forms at the back of the object, right? So suppose that when you shine a torch or a flashlight on someone, the shadow will be will form behind that particular object, isn't it? So the moon has to go at the back to get eclipsed, isn't it? And that can happen only in the nighttime. So wow, now moon is completely eclipsed and I cannot see a tinge of the moon right now in the sky. Wow. This is so fascinating, just few hours before the bright moon was right in front of me and now it's vanished. So people say that you should not do this, you should not eat during eclipses, and also here I have, here I am, with my team. Okay. So at our headquarters, and we are having this eclipse watch party, and we are having, we are enjoying our chips. So it's good to do anything. You can eat, you can drink, you can do anything during eclipses. Okay. So cheers.
And Ashish, as we near to the totality, so all the students who are joining with the worksheet, they can actually make a note of the Danjon scale, how reddish the totality looks, isn't it? So today it is looking pretty dark. For me, I don't see orangish or yellowish tinge. I see pretty much deep copper red. So how about you?
So, what do you guys think? What is the scale on on Danzon scale? Whether it is L1, L2, L3, or L4. I feel like with my observation. See, right now the moon has been completely vanished from the sky above me, but it's maybe probably due to the clouds. But still, I think it would be somewhere close to L2. I would say L2 or L3 probably. It is definitely not L4 or L5, but sure it is L3 or L2. What's your observation? You can please put it on the chat box and let us have this observation from all across the world. Okay, so there is a one question: what time it will be red in color? By the way, I think it's already red. I hope you can see the screen. And if not, you can also, if you have a clear, if you have an access of clear sky, you can also just look at it, and it's pretty dark red actually this time. So it's already red. Let me also, just maybe let me increase my screen value. So maybe that way, you can see it a little bit more color. Okay. I think now this should be pretty much visible to you, right? Okay. Now I hope you can see the redness in my screen.
Ah,
So, the eclipse that I had observed earlier was back in 2018, and again from the same location. And back then, the moon was not this red. I was, able to see the features of the moon, like some are, some dark regions, some mere. But right now, as I'm seeing right now in the sky, it's almost it has almost disappeared from the sky. Wow, I mean, like, of course, I mean, it is not L0 or L1, but I'm sure it is in between some L2 or L3. So you can also, take your own worksheets and, try to see the scale of the total lunar eclipse. And yes, the redness happens due to the Earth's atmosphere because of the Rayleigh scattering. There is a phenomenon which happens in the physics. It's called Rayleigh scattering. When the light, when the photons, it hits on some certain objects, okay, on some certain particles. Those particles basically they change. They basically this. They change the direction of the they change the direction of the light based on the wavelength. So basically it's scattering, basically, I would say, right? Not changing the direction. So blue light basically it scatters everywhere, okay, and the red light it scatters less, and that color basically reaches the moon. That's what you're seeing right now. So if, let us say that if you are on a planet where you have the total lunar eclipse, and if the planet does not have an atmosphere, then well, this reddening effect will not be visible from that particular planet. That's all because of the atmosphere. Now you can imagine there is a one nice imagination you can have is like if you right now if somebody is on the moon, okay, right now if somebody is on the moon, what kind of eclipse would they see from the moon? Interesting, right? So please, you can post your answers in the chat box, and let's see who gets it right. So, have you noticed, or are you noticing that there is a small little dot nearby the moon? What do you think what that dot could be? Because this dot was not there earlier, right? I'm sure. But right now you can see it's pretty prominent, right? You can see that there's a little, whitish dot nearby to the moon. What that dot could be? Can anyone answer? Please put it in the chat box. So this is the blood moon stage. Right now the moon is pretty dark, it's pretty red, and this is the stage is famously known as the blood moon. Okay, now if you see the distance between, I mean, the angular distance between the moon and the star has increased right now. Can you guess? How is it possible? The both are moving at the same rate in the sky. Is that so? If that is there, then why the distance between the moon and that particular star has changed? Angular distance between, by the way. It is not the actual distance, not in a 3D format. We're talking about the distance in between them, basically the angular distance. So right now you can see the moon is even more darker. And well, wow, we have one more star right near next to it. And these stars will not be visible at all if the moon is in full bright mode. During the full moon phase, these stars cannot be seen. अरे नहीं, वो लाइट ही बंद कर देते अभी, जरूरत नहीं है लाइट का। अरे ये क्या, बे मून गया कहाँ बे, बाइनोकुलर लेके आना। Wow, now you can see even more number of stars. Wow, this looks fantastic. We all have been learning about the blood moon. The moon is gonna turn into blood red color, right? So this is where this is what it is right now, and right in front of you on your screen. And I, it's pretty almost invisible to the naked eye actually. So why? Wow, wow. And if you can actually see right now, you can actually have, if you have, you see the sky right now, you can see the Saturn right behind, I mean, beside the moon. But yeah, little far, little onto the east side. But yeah, you can see the Saturn as well. Fantastic. Wow, this is the beauty of the universe, of the total lunar eclipse. You can see how nicely the moon has turned into red color, and yeah, you feel like the right now moon is hiding behind the earth, and it is not the earth is not letting the sunlight reach the moon. The only light which is reaching the moon right now is the light which is slipping through the atmosphere, and the atmosphere itself is now further filtering and letting the only red light reach the surface. So, hello guys, I hope you are enjoying this beautiful eclipsed moon. So, we started our party with chips. Now, cheers. Too good. So, wow. I think the moon is gonna stay in the umbral shadow for another half an hour or so. And then again, it will start slipping out of the umbral shadow and jumping into the penumbral shadow. So, well, it's so fascinating that during the during the full moon phase, you see the bright moon, and right now, it is eclipsed, and I feel like, as per my observation, as I can see, the moon is pretty dark right now, and so on the Danjon scale, I feel it should be L2, and that means that there are a lot of particulates. There is a lot of particle density in the stratosphere layer. So I think, yeah, that is one thing. So there is one observation, that the scientists have observed during 1992. In general, when the total lunar eclipse happens, it will be a bright red. But during 1992 total lunar eclipse, the moon was almost invisible in the sky. And that actually happened because of a volcano. Yes, you heard it right. Because of the volcano. Now you might be thinking, what is the relation between a volcano and the eclipsed moon? So during the volcanic eruption, that it spews out the sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, right? And it generally goes into the troposphere and come back with the rain and with the wind, with the air. But during the large volcanic eruption, those volcanoes shoots these particles of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, where it keeps lingering there for years and years. Okay. And yeah, because of that, and it, though that sulfur dioxide basically turns into a sulfuric acid, and those sulfate ions in the stratosphere resulted more into the darkening of the moon. Because of course, it is gonna, the less amount of light is gonna be scattered over there. So that is the reason it turned into more darker red. It's so fascinating. I have seen couple of lunar eclipses in my life, but I still, feel like this is something, which we humans, must observe at least once in a lifetime. And I would like to thank, my organization of our Sedutech, who brought this wonderful platform where, we are able to broadcast this live to the people across the country. So I hope you are enjoying as much as I'm doing over here. And I'm sure many of you might be feeling sleepy. So keep your chocolates, keep your snacks ready, because the moon will stay in the umbrella shadow for another 20 minutes, and then it will spew out. It will, just leave the umbrella shadow, go into the penumbral, and then you will see the moon will start getting brighter from the another end, right? So, yep. Please post your questions if you have any in the chat box. So, thank you guys for for your wonderful questions. They are really nice. So I'm sure that many of you have done your homework, before the total lunar eclipse. Yep, good job. So, guys, yes, we are almost on the way to cross the umbral, probably another 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes. After that, we will cross the umbral and jump back into the penumbral. So, you will see that one side of the moon will start getting brighter now. Okay, so you can see that now the moon is getting brighter from the another end, right? That means the moon is now slipping out of the umbral shadow and going into the penumbral shadow and from the other direction. Okay, so now the total phase has just ended. Wow, it's phenomenal, isn't it? Wow, can you see that now the moon is getting brighter from the top end? Lovely. Oh my god, this is such a lovely sight. Wow. So you can see that now the moon is coming out of the umbral shadow. Almost, half of the moon is being now transitioned into the penumbral side. So that's how you look. That's how, half of the moon is looking dark and half is in white shade. So, hi guys. So I hope you have enjoyed the live streaming of Total Lunar Eclipse. Now, as we see that the moon is almost about to shift from umbral shadow to penumbral shadow, we have got couple of minutes left, and now you can see we have the bright moon right in front of you. Right. So let's wait for another couple of minutes to see how the moon completely shifts out of this dark shadow and jump into the lighter part of the shadow. So just last couple of seconds before the moon leaves the umbral shadow. It's 1:25 a.m. IST, live streaming from Hyderabad. So this was live streaming from Hyderabad, Navar's EduTech. Hope you have enjoyed this beautiful total lunar eclipse event and the live streaming through our telescopes and camera. See you in our next event. Take care. Good night.